Hello, everyone, and welcome to D Life. I'm Mishal, a sports nutritionist and a nutritionist on the panel of D Life. First of all, thank you so much for all your amazing feedback that you have been sharing with us. Thank you for joining us on Twitter and writing to us. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications for all our forthcoming videos. Today's video, we will be covering a success story. So there's science and there is data, but there is nothing like actual proof. There is nothing like stories about real people who talk about real experiences, about their journey, about how they have been managing their life on low carb, high fat. And today we have with us Vijay Shastri, whose journey, whose experience, whose story is so motivating, so inspirational. I mean, it is people like Vijay who give us the hope to keep moving forward in this low carb, high fat community. So Vijay is a D Life member, and today in his journey, he'll be sharing with us his fight with diabetes from 75 units of insulin per day to almost being out of medications, most of his medications, how he is sustaining, and the joy that he is finding, joy that he has found in practicing low carb. So I'm going to start this with welcoming Vijay. Thank you, Vijay, so much for taking out the time today.
Thank you, Mishal.
Okay, Vijay. So let's begin by understanding from you, why did you look for low carb? I mean, what is it that got you to low carb?
Okay, so I had been a diabetic since my age of 29, which was about 2001. And since then, I had been on various medications. Somewhere in 2008, even though I was a type 2 diabetic, I chose to take insulin. It all started with about 12 units of insulin that time. And then eventually, the dose of insulin kept on going higher. And I was also given a lot of other oral hypoglycemic sulfonylureas or gliptins. And until 2016-17, I used to have a PP of about 200 and a fasting of somewhere around 130 to 140. In 2018, when I got myself checked, the PP went to about 260, and the fasting was somewhere around 149 or 150. And by 2018 January, I was about 46 years old, and in the last 6 years, I had not freaked out much on food. In fact, my food habits were actually declining, whereas my medication was increasing, and the levels of sugar was also. So finally, I went to another doctor to see if I could do something, and then he prescribed another concoction of medicines, and the insulin dose only kept on going high. So I thought this is not working, and I should find a solution to this problem. Otherwise, I didn't know whether at that point of time I was even worried whether I would even survive to be 50. Yeah. And with a son who was in 10th standard at that time, a lot of stuff. So I thought, and that is how I was looking around, and then D Life. I got in touch with D Life, some of the members of D Life, and that is how it started.
Yeah, I mean, that was like something really a tough journey. So from 29 to 46, uh, you're saying that you actually didn't do much about, as in like your food habits were not very heavy, that it could affect your diabetes in a way that it just kept on increasing, right? So you were having more control on your food,
Yep.
but your medications were just yet going higher and higher, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what got you onto D Life? What got you on to picking up low carb, high fat?
Right. So as I told you, I met a few members of D Life, and then I did watch a few videos that were on D Life, and based on my interaction with them, it did appear, and I learned a lot of things. The first one I learned was, diabetes, the high sugar itself that is found in your testing, is not the disease. It's just the symptom of something else, which is a symptom of an underlying disease. And then I got to know by interacting with them and watching a few videos on the portal that the actual disorder is insulin resistance. And what is showing up is our high blood sugar numbers. And there was also a doctor who, whose video is there, who said very clearly that if you keep on attending to the symptoms, or if you keep on only treating the symptom, the disease is never going to get cured. And then I could look back and see what was happening in the last 4-5 years. My blood sugar only kept on increasing, even though my food habits were a bit under control. I wouldn't say I didn't have carbs or anything, but I was not taking direct sugar or anything in the last 4 or 5 years before I started. So this seemed very scientific, very attractive. And at that point of time, I think I didn't have any other option but to also try this out, but which looked very scientific, very logical. And then I started watching more and interacting more with people. And that's when I thought, this sounds logical, I should try it. And there was a lot of support, a lot of motivation, which were given by some of the members in D-Life. And I did recognize that there were a lot of doctors there, a lot of scientists, a lot of nutritionists. Of course, you are one of them. So I just decided to take the plunge. And guess what? Within a month, you could see results. So
that's amazing. Right. So, and that's exactly what I said when I was beginning this video, is that it is real people's real story that actually inspires us. I mean, yes, there is science, and yes, there is data, and at times people even find it logical. But then when we actually see people who have been able to manage a diabetes, like say about 19-20 years of diabetes that you're saying, which only got worse and worse. Yes, nobody talks about insulin resistance. Everybody only talks about your sugar numbers. Nobody says, oh, have you got your insulin test done? Nobody at that point of time talks about it, right? I mean, your doctors don't take you, get your fasting insulin done, and it's just the symptoms that that everybody is like trying to tackle. And right, so you joined somewhere in February last year.
Yes.
Right. So how was it, and what were what was your insulin dosage at that time, and how soon did you see the results in terms of different markers? Yeah, could you just tell us?
Okay. So at that point of time, to be very precise, I started on February 20th of 2018. So until then, some of the markers, number one, my body weight was anywhere between 94 and 95 kilos. I'm 6 foot tall. And I was 46 that time, 2000. Yeah, I was 46. I just turned 46. My HbA1c was somewhere around 9.3. And then my PP, as I told you earlier, was about 260, and my fasting was somewhere around 150. I didn't measure insulin because we never measured insulin before that. And to treat this, I was on gliptin, sulfonylureas, and I was on anywhere between 34 to 36 units of insulin per session, which means into 2 is anywhere between 72 to 74 units of insulin.
How many years did you take insulin?
About 10 years. I started that in 2008. So 2008 until 2018, I was on insulin, even though I was a type 2 diabetic. And I chose to take insulin, which again, one of the doctors in the D-Life panel said is a mistake that I did. I had my own logic to do that, but I now realize it's a flawed logic.
Right. So probably, one of the reasons why people start on insulin at an early stage is like to save your pancreas so that your pancreas is not doing too much of work.
Yes.
So let's just give some exo insulin. And
I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but now I clearly believe it's wrong. I think if you want to really get rid of the problem, then you need to get rid of insulin resistance. And I think the only way out is to restrict your carbs. Right?
Right,
I don't
right.
think exercising or taking more and more drugs is going to help you.
Right, right. So, yeah, so all of you who are watching this video right now, please don't stop your insulin and your medications right away. You know, it's a journey, and as you see your numbers improving, is when you can go back to your doctor and say, hey, look, you know what, my numbers are improving, right? And at that point of time, your doctor will always reduce your medication. Right, but your numbers have to start improving, and that happens once you start the diet, right? So do you remember vaguely what was your fasting insulin at that time?
Yes. So I didn't test my insulin, but it's very important that you said, you know, we need to tell the journey that you asked for, right? So one day I did suddenly decide to drop all the carbs. Okay, so in the morning I just had paneer, and in the afternoon I took vegetables.
So one thing here, Vijay, I want to tell the viewers is that Vijay is a vegetarian. So we always have this concern that can vegetarians do it? Isn't low carb, high fat keto about eggs and bacon and steaks and things like that? So yeah, so he is a vegetarian, and he has reversed and been able to manage and sustain. So yes, yeah, please.
Right. So one day I took a call, but then I am also a pharmacist by education. So I do know the effects of insulin, that it can cause a hypo. So I always had some reserve sugar and things with me. Right. Before I ventured into this, I bought a glucometer, and I started testing after every meal so that I never get a hypo. Right. You know, in managing sugar, hyper is a little better than getting into a hypo situation. So 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, after 3 days or 4 days, slowly my sugar levels started dropping. So as they started dropping, I started moderating my insulin intake also. And by constantly testing 7-8 times a day, all this when I was working in office, it doesn't take a minute. But of course, I had members from D-Life with whom, so I used to have a record of my food intake versus my blood sugar readings.
Right.
And versus the medications. And every night I used to send it to a couple of members in D-Life. And we all used to decide what should be the plan for the next day. So we always, you know, kept on reducing insulin, even though the sugar levels used to be a little higher. But then guess what? Within 2 weeks, it just dropped to PP dropped to 120 or 118.
Wow.
And then there was a steady decline of intake of insulin. So I think within the second month, after 60 days, I had stopped sulfonylureas, vildagliptin, ramipril, and everything, and I was still clocking PP of anywhere about 120 to 125. Of course, fasting always used to be about 125 or 130. And finally, by just getting down the doses, and I was very strict. I never touched anything called carbs directly, indirectly. By mistake, if I had touched sugar, then I would wash my hands. So I was so dogmatic about it. So very, 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 very disciplined, because it was yielding results, and there was always a lot of support, and it was the thrill because science started working. So that is something which, you know, you were seeing results like 260, 290. You were worried, and then today you're seeing 120, which you never dreamt of, and no medicine could get it. So that kept on going, and then. Of course, I think one more incident is that sadly, I was, I used to like all these street side foods, and I used to travel Air India, which used to give biscuits. And the moment I took to low carb food, they started serving samosas and kachoris. It was so difficult initially for me to, so tempting. But the results by that time had started showing up. So I never wanted to break it. And it was a decision I took. I think always you need to have two things. One is a very serious purpose. Another is a lot of help. For me, the purpose was my son, what would he do if tomorrow I wouldn't be alive? And the support was from the members of D-Life, who are all, many of them are doing it themselves, and also the scientific advice you put. And then, you do get some lows on some days. You do feel, oh, you're missing something, but then you see them, talk to them, and then get motivated to be back on track. So, I didn't do a cheat meal, and eventually on May 27th of 2018, I was out of insulin and only on metformin.
So that's like about 3 months, within 3 months?
3 months. And also my weight had dropped from 95 to 75. I lost about 20 kilos.
Wow.
And of course, in the second and the third month, I did have some, because the fat was coming out, especially it was in the abdomen area. I had fat in and my waistline is like totally gone now. So it makes you so happy and so motivated. And I could now, I had to change the entire set of clothes that I had. And
that's where it gets a bit expensive.
That's fine. But then, you're so happy that you can wear slim fitting clothes and stuff like that, which you used to do it in college. And more importantly,
so, there's always that saying that I wish I could fit into my college denims.
Yeah. And the college thing reminds me another thing. So all this while in my journey of diabetes, I was losing my freshness. And it went to a point in 2016, 2017 that in the weekends, I didn't even want to come out of my bedroom. Okay. So on the weekends, I used to be so sluggish. I had to necessarily, take rest to do work in the next coming working days.
Right.
And all that went after 3 months. I love driving. My aggression or my passion for driving fast on the roads had also completely became zero. I used to be very conservative and, it was all dull. But then after 3 months or 2.5, 3 months, as I started this low carb journey, that freshness in mind, that tiredness is not there. In fact, you are bursting with energy. And that was visibly being noticed in my company. As the time progresses towards the evening, you become fresher and fresher. So people are, you want to start a meeting at 6 and then people are by that time already spent, So it's amazing now. And now, I drive like, I feel like how I was in my 12th standard, the same energy, and I've got my driving stuff back, so it's like
awesome.
I've been born again.
Yeah, it's like being born again. It's really so nice, these. So the just the energy level. Also,
Right.
I cannot really emphasize enough on how you need to keep taking medications over and over again, and especially insulin, and I keep saying this in all my podcasts because I've seen my mom was taking insulin for like almost 10 years, and if we go to a restaurant and then before everything, then she has to maybe go to the restroom, take a dose, or you're at a wedding or something, it just gets on you, and it's so it's necessary at that point of time because you don't know what else to do, right? And but then, like you're saying, here it is within 3 months you were off insulin. I mean, from 75 units to being off insulin is like really a big thing. And of course, like I always say, weight loss, energy that comes from ketones, it's like just awesome, but then the whole part where we are able to, like you said, you used to look at your son and you used to feel like, okay, what kind of a example I'm going to set to him. So really nice. And would you like to touch upon, you had the numbers with microalbuminuria and fatty liver.
So this so many years of diabetes had also led to a fatty liver. I wouldn't say it was disease, but I was detected with fatty liver way back in 2007, 2008, and it continued. Of course, the only advice the doctors could give, the diabetologists could give at the time was, you control your blood sugar and this will be under control.
Yes.
But then my blood sugar was
yeah, but
under
how do you
control.
do that? Yeah, we
Yeah,
know that
exactly.
if we control the blood sugar, all of this will be possible. How do we do that? We don't know.
Yeah, and their solution was always with medicines, whether it was insulin or sulfonylureas, then you had gliptins coming up, tomorrow you will have something else coming up, but then they're all treating the symptoms again and again, which now I learned from D-Life. And then now, what they said is working too. So within 3 months of adopting low carb, I went for a scan again, and the guy said it's almost gone. There's no fatty liver at all. So 3 months that was gone. And I
Amazing.
also, and just to what you told me, what motivated me to come into low carb. One more reason was when I tested myself in 2018 February, just before I started, my microalbuminuria went up to 100. Until then, it used to be somewhere around 26 or 27. It climbed to 60 once, and then it went to 100. So that was the time I thought, now this is going to start affecting my kidneys. And then I took low carb, and I was always very particular about my kidneys because my family had somebody in my family had kidney failure. So I know what it is. So I thought I wouldn't want to have that. And this low carb, after 3 months, I did go for a routine urine and a blood checkup. And the microalbuminuria had come down to less than 6. And then subsequently, I had tested it once in 3 months, and it is staying less than 6. So that was another big achievement.
Right. So yeah, so we always say in the low carb community that once you've seen the results, you cannot unsee it. So that's
That's a nice one. That's a nice one.
You cannot unsee it, right? That's what we all
Yeah.
keep saying on the community, that
Yeah.
I mean, there's a proof in the pudding, and that's where it is. So yeah, so all our viewers out there, as you know, that we as D-Life, Vijay is also a member of D-Life. We as D-Life are a community of, by, and for Indians, where we focus on low carb, high fat, and keto diet to manage your diabetes, fatty liver, PCOS, effortless weight loss, or your other metabolic syndrome issues. We have very great reviews from international stalwarts from the low carb community. We have more than 200 success stories. So do connect with us on Twitter, subscribe to our channel. Our website registration link is given below in the description. And do write to us, share with us your feedback, give us your comments. And yeah, we really appreciate that there is so much of interaction that all our viewers are doing. So Vijay, I want to touch upon a small thing here, and which I have also noticed in my journey as a nutritionist, and my of course my own journey with PCOS and weights and stuff like that and all that. You keep saying that there were members on D-Life who supported you and things like that.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's impossible for somebody to do it on their own, but I really feel that the importance of community and the importance of support. Can you tell us what is your view on that?
Yes, I think it's very easy to simplify and say you can do it yourself. You can. I mean, I'm
Yes.
not saying 90% of the effort is yours.
Yes.
But then it's not when you're going through this journey of coming down from a high level of blood sugar to the normal levels, you do hit plateaus. Okay, and that is where you require an intervention or a strategy, right? Because, for example, I can tell you, I used to have an insulin by name 50-50 in the morning and 30-70 in the evening, right? So when it was 260 and I was taking 76 units of insulin per day, until we came down to 20 units of insulin per day, we could come down. But then once you come down to about 30 or 40, your blood sugar doesn't come down any further. then you know it is some food that is affecting you. So then there is a lot of experience in the panel in D Life. Then who can tell you perhaps your dairy proteins are still not, the body is not accepting. So at that point of time, then you tweak to take something else,
Right.
and then you go down, and then you find out that 30-70 is not as good or as effective, because people even say the ratio of the insulin, because 30% gets released immediately. So I switched over to 50-50 in the night also.
Okay.
Of course, you do have an eye. People do tell you that have an eye on your blood sugar. You should not get a hypo in the night. So I reduced the dose and took it. So all these, dose adjustments and stuff like that, you have support from D Life members, and you have similar people with similar experiences who have gone through this journey, who can tell you, what's really happening. Because sometimes if you're alone, you are afraid that you did this, and that's why this is happening.
Correct.
And whenever a new thing happens, even when I became a diabetic, right, way back in 2001 or 2002, even if a fever comes, you'll think, oh, it's because of diabetes I'm having a fever. So actually fever is coming because of something else. So similarly, even in this journey, you have a leg pain, you'll think, oh yeah,
it's
because I left carbs. Yeah. So you then to bust that myth, you need some support, right? So you need to talk to people, and they have also gone through this journey. I did have some pain in my back. I did realize that it was because I was losing fat very rapidly from my hips. So when I talk, and then when the fat exits, you also know how it exits only by talking to your people, because they've had similar things. So you do require that support. That's number one. Number two, for some people, they may feel very a lack of options of food, but the whole section of recipes and even you can enjoy sweets. I do take, even this morning I had some chocolates. You can call that as keto chocolate. Such recipes are there. And I do make paneer butter masala, which is keto, many other stuff which is keto.
Right.
And so for those who don't want to miss their food, they can still enjoy, but only you cannot have a direct sugar or a direct carb, but everything else you can enjoy. So all this is tons and tons, pages and pages are available on the website of D Life. So all this helps you without slipping,
Correct.
So that you can continue, and it is sustainable.
Right. So sustainable, like you said, and how we keep saying that D Life is of, by, and for Indians, and we are doing an Indian low carb, right? Or we are doing an Indian keto. Let's say today, probably you're doing a more keto, more stricter version of a low carb. We as Indians, or anybody, I think we have our certain food habits, right? And we cannot move away too much from it for too long. And I think that's where the recipe sections, and like you mentioned, there are pages and pages of recipes, and these recipes are by members. Right, the members are trying them out at home as per Indian taste buds, and then posting them, so it's not something like, okay, I downloaded it from some website and okay, now here you go, you can do some Indian tweaks to it, and you can
exactly, Mishal.
Actually, things that they are doing, that they are like doing at home.
So even in my house, I come from a South Indian family. We make keto sambar, we make keto rasam. I don't think I miss any of my South Indian stuff. We have curd, which is called hung curd, but you can always dilute it with water, and then and then you don't miss your curd. So you have your 3 rounds, of sambar, rasam, and curd every day, and then you eventually get adjusted to travel too. So
travel. So you said you work with pharma, and we know that you extensively travel. So how do you manage this while you are traveling? That's always a question about people who have a very travel related
So my answer, because I've been traveling for the last 2 years very extensively. Of course, even before that I used to be traveling. The simplest thing is, where there's a will, there is a way. And and there are some books which say when you're so particular about doing something, the whole world will cooperate to see to that you achieve it,
Yeah.
right? So Paulo Coelho's statement, right? The
Yeah.
alchemist.
Alchemist.
So yeah, so that's what happens. So if you're so particular that you want it, right? So what I do is whenever I go to a restaurant or a hotel, then I go and meet the chef. So I ask him to prepare what I want. In fact, I do get an entry, and they are so nice because no one talks to the chefs, right? So they are so happy. I go stand next to them. I even ensure that their pan is first cleaned of all the other Chinese sauces or other things. And then in a clean pan, I ask them to put butter and make the vegetable in front of me, or do such things, right? And in my office, again, because people know, so people are so, motivated and excited to see me, not to even give this up even a single day or a single meal. So they come upfront, the admin, the HR, and they ask me what is that I want. I tell them, I give them the recipe, and they ensure that that's made in some restaurant or something and brought to it. So I have never, whether it was a board meeting, whether it was a meeting with the CEO or a lunch with my CEO or the proprietor of the company, I take my own lunch as long as I'm in Mumbai.
Great.
So I don't think I feel ashamed or I have any hesitation. Ultimately, it's your health first. But then, contrary to what we think, they all appreciate you so much, and they are so, inspired by you that, you have such a strong willpower.
True. And also in times when you can't access a chef or you can't get something customized,
yes.
I think as basic as some eggs or as basic as something is also accessible.
Correct. So what do I also do is I carry a lot of cheese cubes with me, and I do carry walnuts, almonds, and boiled eggs are always there. So breakfast is never a trouble, Mishal, okay, in any of the hotels.
Yeah.
It's usually lunch, but then, you can, in case you don't find a restaurant or a hotel which serves what, you can still, of course, intermittent fasting is another big area. So you can always do a fast, which is going to help you. But then even if you don't, if you don't want to do a fasting, you can carry coconut milk, you can carry cheese, you can carry nuts. You can carry a lot of other things which can keep you full and which are healthy, right? You can buy cucumbers, so I do travel with a lot of such food stuff, just in case.
Great. So and also I think in your case, since you have seen the extreme of being diabetic, you are this extremely disciplined one. So the more contrast you go through, the more well-being you want to experience is what I feel, So, right from the age of 29, being diabetic or being called diabetic. And, I remember in my early 30s, I was first prescribed metformin, which I ignored. I said, okay, yeah, whatever, but like I'm saying, and again, I want to touch upon, like how, like a fatty liver or your other numbers, your insulin numbers. So because you faced that extreme contrast is why you are, like you really don't want to go back to being that way. So Vijay, all in all, you are now more than a year, almost 2 years into low carb.
Almost 2 years,
Almost 2 years into low carb. And do you also do fasting sometimes? And
yes. So in the weekends, I do a 12-hour fasting, and every alternate weekend, I do a 24-hour fasting.
Okay.
So that fasting, during fasting, I either take black coffee or lemon water with salt. I don't even do a fat fasting. So I don't take fats either.
Right.
So that intermittent fasting, when I did for 2 months, brought down the sugar levels and also my weight to the next lower level. So
Yeah, I know, because honestly, like I covered in my fasting video also, unless you're like really adapted to low carb and keto,
Hmm.
intermittent fasting is extremely difficult. I mean, on a high carb diet, you just cannot fast. I mean, that's why you
Yep.
have the small meals all the 2 hours, every 2-3 hours. So great, Vijay. Thank you so much for taking out the time. And towards the end, would you like to share a message with the viewers, the ones watching out there who are still considering, oh, is this a fad diet? Can we do it? Can Indians do it? Can vegetarians do it? Oh my God, I've been like diabetic for 20 years. Can I still do it? Or I've, I've just been detected, or, yeah. What would you like to say?
Okay, I think you should do it if you are a diabetic. The earlier you adopt it, the faster your results are going to be. And you should do it for the sake of your family, for the sake of yourself, because diabetes eventually silently affects your organ. Like in my case, when the microalbuminuria had started going up,
Yeah, they say it
and then
silently kills one organ at
kill.
a time.
Yes, and you don't want to, especially in your old age, you cannot bear it yourself, and you don't want to be a burden on your family either. So I don't think, when you watch videos on D-Life and stuff like that, surely the answer is not medicines, just as in my case, right? And the only way is to cut down on carbs and go the low carb way. I think it's absolutely safe, and I have now completed about 22 months. Um, I have not had a single side effect. The only side effect I should say I had is, I used to have during winter, the Indian winter, I used to have infections and fever without fail, and the last 2 years I've not had anything.
Wow,
So
that's an
it is
excellent
taken
side
care of.
effect.
Yeah, a good side effect to have. So and so I think it's rather only helpful. I don't think people need to be worried. You do need some hand holding, which is always available in D-Life.
Right.
And I think you should do it for yourself, for the sake of your family, and you'll see the results, and the results will come within 2 to 3 weeks of starting it, right?
Right. So thank you so much, Vijay, for taking out the time from your busy schedule and sharing your journey with all the viewers out there, and all our viewers. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Do share with us your feedback. Write to us, connect with us, check out our website, do connect, follow us on Twitter. And thank you so much. And thank you so much, Vijay, for your journey. I am sure you are going to inspire a lot of people out there to take this route on low carb. So thank you, Vijay. Thank you, everyone. I'm Mishal, a
Thank you,
sports
Michelle.
nutritionist on the panel of D-Life. And thank you very much for watching D-Life videos. Have a great day, Vijay.
Thank you. See you. Same to you. Bye.
Hello everyone and welcome to D-Life's journey since August 2014.